I talk a lot about the growth mindset, about how important it is to keep your mindset balanced and really focused on growth, whether you're trying to grow a relationship or grow in your career or just grow in emotional maturity. One of the culprits of a growth mindset is a mindset called the victim mindset. The victim mindset or mentality is something children develop by watching those closest to them, their caretakers, in childhood. And then they repeat that pattern. They repeat it because when you play the victim, when you shift blame, when there's always a reason you can't do what you wanted to do, or when there's always a limitation that you create that basically gives you an excuse not to do more, not to be motivated, not to set goals, it follows you. And when you make that excuse, it gives you a reason in your mind. It's a false reason, it's a denial, but nonetheless, it is a reason why you don't have to do it. You miss a lot of life. Well, when you carry that into a relationship, you've got a miserable setup because your partner loves you, but they already know that you can't be held accountable. When you are, there's always an excuse. So I want to take this apart because just as you learned it growing up and it's deep in a crevice in your brain, you can unlearn this. You can unlearn this mindset in therapy, but the first thing is you're going to have to be aware of it. So I want to talk about it a little bit, and the first thing I want to tell you about it is what it looks like, okay? It looks like blaming, it's helplessness, playing the helplessness card, like telling your partner you can't possibly put this together because you don't know how. Yet you can read anything, you're a massive reader. Certainly if you can read a book, you could put it together if they would help you. I mean, there's a lot of different examples of this. This is different than the learned helplessness when you are in a role that you're being manipulated or abused. So don't get that confused. This is when you just decide that you'll never be able to really do anything because you don't know how. You don't have the skills to learn how. Passive aggressiveness, that's when you basically go along with something, but you underneath you're seething, so you find aggressive ways to let it out. The way it comes across as far as your attitude is a negative outlook, of course, because you're so limited, you're going to be negative. Entitlement, you don't think you should have to do this, so you use the victim mentality to help you make an excuse why you didn't. And a lack of accountability. This is what makes relationships almost impossible with someone who has a victim mindset because they can't be held accountable. There's always somebody else to blame. And a need for validation. No matter what you do, you need to be recognized, or there has to be like applause because you overcame whatever you had to do. You are the hero. It's such a big deal to you that unless other people appreciate it, you kind of will give up and get back into the victim mindset because it is so effective for you. Yes, you're limited, but at the same time, you don't do anything. You don't have to challenge yourself. The consequences in a relationship, there's a huge communication breakdown because you can never problem solve with your partner. Basically, no matter what the issue is, they already know you're not responsible, even though you are. You're going to play that card, and this is why your partner stops confiding in you, stops trusting to you, and stops going to you first. There's a relationship imbalance. In other words, if you're in a relationship with a victim, then basically you have to do it all. You really will, because they will never do anything because they've got an excuse why they can't. Resentment and conflict, and that's all happening on the person who's carrying the majority of the load, which is the person who is with someone who has a victim mentality. And it's just the relationship becomes very stagnant. As you would expect, a victim mindset is not a growth mindset. So the relationship is in a vicious cycle. No one can get out. Now, personally, if you're dating someone with a victim mindset and they're close to the option of getting help, of trying to work through it, then I would automatically say, I have very little faith that this relationship will work for you. However, if you're with someone who says, listen, I saw this in my parents, I am aware of it, it's just very difficult for me, then I'm going to talk to you about how you would address that in a relationship. Okay, the first thing is it's highly advisable that you have to say what's going on. You have to be honest. Try to be empathetic, understanding that this is very difficult for them, but you have to say something to them. And tell them honestly, I feel, I statements only, that I'm carrying the majority of the load and I can't do it anymore. It's difficult to get you to admit when you are responsible for something. It's difficult to get you to face consequences. And it's very difficult for you to actually see yourself that you had a part in this. And so everything in the relationship, I feel, is on me. And once you say that, if they don't get it, then basically they're never going to get it, and they're going to choose their stuck victim mindset over the relationship. And then your options are going to be very clear. You're going to have to leave. But if they listen to that and they're able to hear it, then the second thing is say, I think you need professional help. And if you think it'll help us, I'll join you. But you for sure need professional help to get over this, to move through this. And yes, it does work. Someone who has a victim mindset does not have to live in it. If they tell you that, it's just another learned helplessness. And until they become aware that they can do something, then I would say this is not a relationship that will probably make it for you, because you'll end up resentful and really angry and miserable if you stay in, and I wouldn't advise that. Thirdly, I think it's really important that you consider saying something to them like, I know there's resources out there, and if you go to therapy and you get the resources and they suggest something where we can go on a couples retreat, I think that would be great. And maybe we can make this work, we can enhance our communication. Once again, it's going to depend on your ability to have a growth mindset for the relationship. There has to be enough positive in the relationship for you to be willing to put yourself out there and be able to say that no matter what, do not feel guilty. Someone in this mindset has got to unlearn what they saw growing up. And it's possible, it's difficult, but it has to come from them. You can't force them, you can't make them, and the choice is entirely theirs. If this video is helpful for you, please subscribe. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much.